wildly underestimating. They estimated about 1,200 cameras a square mile. Manhattan now has a density of a minimum of 3,000 cameras a square mile below 96 all the way down to the Battery. The average person walking around in Manhattan is caught on camera, I mean in this hotel every nanosecond, but caught on camera walking in the street, estimated 140 times a day. Now, it's not just cameras. If it was cameras, somebody would have to sit there and watch the cameras and know it's you and say, hey, that's Bob. Bob's walking down the street. The technology has kept up with the cameras and with the installation. And you now have smart cameras, which have embedded facial recognition and embedded activity recognition. Facial recognition means the camera looks at you and it knows it's Bob. And it reports it's Bob, especially if somebody's looking for Bob. There's also activity, well, you know what? Let me do this in order. Here's representative growth. London. London, England, in 1967, cameras were introduced. In 1996, about 20 years later, there were only 500 cameras. As of last year, there are 4.2 million, and you know, the Brits really know how to put lipstick on a pig. They really do. They call these cameras community safety cameras, not we're watching you every second of your life cameras. But that's what it is. Now, by the way, these cameras are worthless. They didn't stop the London tube bombing. As you'll see in a second, 50% of all assaults are caught on cameras in London. Only 3% of the crimes are solved as a result of the cameras. Now, if there isn't already a camera, every little police department. I've got a summer home down in the middle of nowhere in Texas. If I told you where it is, you've never heard of it. My nearest neighbor's 1.25 miles away. The sheriff's department in my county has a drone. This is the new thing. Texas has them. Helicopter drones. This is Miami. Oh, this is actually my favorite one. Florida, before they really learned how to use the drone, it flew off and sunk in the ocean. DARPA, who brought you the internet, is making tiny, tiny, tiny little drones the size of flies. But here's the creepiest thing. They took a real moth and they put like a little brain controller in it. This is an actual photo from DARPA, if you think I'm making this up. And they called it Cyborg Fly. They wanted to be able to have like this moth go into a room and fill you. It's like, yeah, Vinny, the shipment's coming in tonight. What's with these flies, you know? I had to do that. But that's not that, I mean, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, not so wild. Oh, this is another spooky, spooky, spooky thing. Defense Research Associates, Devil Ray. This thing, if you look in the back, you'll see 2 spools. This thing, when it starts running low on power, like a vampire, it can let out 2 wires, fly on top of a high tension wire, suck up some power, recharge, suck up the spools, and fly on. I mean, this is the future. This thing will never land until the motor breaks or the Terminator shoots it down or something. Let's talk about NYPD, and we're going to get into some creepy stuff. This is the NYPD's helicopter. It's not 2 guys going, oh, you know, there's a traffic jam down there. The electronics are so sophisticated, they need essentially a weapons operator. He sits back there and he runs the surveillance stuff. This thing from 2 kilometers away, which, what's that, a mile? 1.4 miles, can look into your car and see what you're doing. How do I know that? Because there was actually a case of a guy a few weeks ago sitting in a car with a gun. You know, our police are badly paid, but they're not idiots. They said, the man's in the car with a gun, there's nobody in there with him. You know, let's leave him alone there for a second and figure out what to do. They called in the helicopter looked into the car and saw that he already shot himself. And they went over and took him off to the morgue. This thing can look right into your car, see what you're doing, Frankly, it can see